Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Oh my God, it's gonna be 2020. I cannot believe it. This is my glühwein glass, which is a mug that you would use to drink hot mulled wine out of. And I got it from Alexanderplatz. And I was inspired to do so because Stacie from Stacie Stories posted that a friend of hers from Germany sent her some authentic glühwein. So I was like, I need to try that. And if you go to Alexanderplatz during Christmas, it is Christmas markets and it's so cute. There is I think it's called a Treffen Tower. It's a huge version of a type of rotating wooden candle. So it's this type of toy that you put a candle in and the heat waves turn it. So it's really pretty, and they usually have like little Santas or something, or elves or whatever, and they kind of turn, but they make a huge one, and that's where everyone goes to drink beer and glühwein and just party and have some fun. There's a lot of music. It's pretty cool. And it's pretty good. It's not very strong at all. There's barely any alcohol in it, so they will ask you if you want a shot of whiskey or rum or something. But it was nice. It was especially nice on a very cold and rainy day, and we were going shopping, so that was preparing me for the crowds. So many people. I also want to just thank every single one of you for subscribing, for liking, for following me on Instagram, for commenting, for sending me messages or recommendations. I really, really appreciate it. It's doing this for me is a huge creative outlet that has made 2019 so amazing for me. With this channel, I want to do some more interesting videos comparing different dark elements together, like I had done with Dark Comparisons, which was the Black Dahlia murder, and Rose McGowan's book Brave. And I just want to do more stuff like that. It's really fun. It's like light investigative work. It's just cool. I love research, so I'm all about that. So I really want to do more of those. I also want to read some more books this year. I did read, I think, about like 22 books maybe in total this year, which was pretty good. I just recently came back to reading intentionally. I was reading maybe 2 or 3 books a year, but like with no real direction, and now I have a complete direction of what I want to do and what I want to read, and also reading about what other people are discovering in the same books that I'm reading, or what their thoughts and opinions were. It's just so important. I think it's something that definitely helps with comprehension, where you're reading, you see it one way, you get someone else's perspective, and it really helps you sort of think bigger, I think, when you're reading. And sometimes I tend to focus on little tiny details, I think, and sometimes I get lost in those because that's really the things that I love. But I definitely want to be able to see the bigger picture, and I want to work on that more. So this holiday, I spent a lot of my time playing Outer Worlds, which is really awesome, and I love it, and it's the RPG game that I've been just craving. I have a few complaints about it, but it's pretty minimal. It's just like, I wish there was a radio you could listen to, because I really love that in Fallout. And also your weapon is always drawn, so like when you're talking to people, you're like, hey, can I talk to you about your mom real quick? And then your companions don't have their gun drawn. So I haven't been reading much. I've just kind of been spending time doing things that I normally just don't have any other time for. And me and my boyfriend picked up some escape room games that are so cool. I thought they were going to be really dumb and cheesy, like they were going to be just your real basic, here's an anagram, or like some pretty basic cipher or something like that, but they are actually pretty difficult and really fun. And the interesting thing about these games is you can only play them once. So the games look like this. This is the Die Unheimliche Villa, which means the uncanny villa. And they all come in like these little boxes, and some of the game pieces that are really interesting where you have these cards and you had to bend them into shapes of numbers. So we had 2 and 6 and 0. And there was also another pair of cards that you had to cut and put together, and they had hidden messages inside of here. It was really fun. It does suck that you can only play them once, but there's something that makes it very special. So it's like when you're playing the game, you got to get it right, or you're just gonna mess the whole thing up. So these are really, really fun, and there's a whole bunch of them. And it comes with an app. It was so cool. So the app allows you to teaches you how to play the game in the language that you prefer, but it also times you, so you can time yourself to see how fast you are compared to other people. And it also plays creepy music. So while you're playing, you have this creepy music that's specific to the game. It's so cool. And the other game I was learning to play was called Officer's Skat. It's a German game. Skat is a different version of Officer's Skat. So the Officer's Skat's the easier game. It's for 2 people to play. It's still very complicated, but it's really, really, really popular here in Germany. My boyfriend also bought me a MIDI keyboard to inspire me to get back into making music. If you didn't know, I was a musician in a metal band for a very long time, and just haven't been doing anything musical for a while, so this is really cool and so sweet of him to do this for me. His idea was that I could make my own music for the channel, and you know what, maybe I will. We'll see. Okay, so let's get down to the top 13 books that I really enjoyed this year. So I have them separated into adult novels, YA novels, and short story collections. So let's go ahead and start with the adult novels. So I'm gonna try and go through these pretty quickly, but I'll just give you the brief rundown of why I loved it. So Kill Creek was my number 1. I gave it a 5-star read. It was my only 5-star for a novel this year. I liked it because it was about a haunted house. It was creepy, it was chilling, it was scary, it was well written, it was interesting. Nothing that shouldn't have been in here wasn't in here. Also too, the characters were well written, and I have a really hard time with men writing women syndrome, which a lot of men have when they're writing their female characters, especially in horror, and that was not the case here. The female character, T.C. Moore, is amazing, so I just really appreciated that, and it was just engrossing and entertaining and awesome. The next book is The Good House by Tanera Abdu. This was an ebook for me, so I don't actually have the physical book with me, but I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was really well written and creepy. I won't say that it was horrifying, but it was really creepy and chilling and interesting, finding out this mystery that's happening with this house and these people. Also the relationships between the people were really well done, and just the inner dialogues of these individual characters were they felt very, very real. The next book is Adam Neville's Last Days. This one was really, really fun. It's a very straightforward horror book. It's very creepy, it's very mysterious. It involves cults and the supernatural, so it was really just, it had me on the edge of my seat when I'm reading it. Same thing with Kill Creek, where I was just what they call a page turner, I guess. The Coffin Path is beautiful, it's haunting, it's creepy, and it's gothic. I love gothic. It takes place on the moors, so you can imagine in your mind already what that colorscape is like. It's cold, it's gray, it's blue. It's just another one of those books that kind of pulls you in and draws you in. It's come in, sit by the fireside, and let me tell you my awful tale. It's that type of thing. I love that. So The Grip of It by Jacques Jemp was a really cool read for me. I felt that this book was not just about a story, but also experiencing the story, because when you're reading it, you are, each chapter is one character or the other. So it's either James or it's Julia. And sometimes when you're reading these chapters, you get confused because you don't know, you might not know it's James until further down the page. And so then you start getting this weird confusion, and confusion is kind of the center of this book. So it's a really cool book, and I think the way that it was written, it was really poetic. And if you kind of more the literary stuff, or kind of more prose that has a little I wouldn't say it's poetic, but some beauty to it, this is definitely cool. The ending wasn't the greatest, and that sucked, but I still don't regret reading it, and I really still enjoyed everything up until the end. So let's talk about the short story collections that I read that I really loved. I just read Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney just recently. This was awesome, and these were really sweet. They were, I would call them creepy cozy. Just kind of creepy, but kind of wholesome. And some of them are sad and sweet, and some are kind of tragic. and funny. You know, so you have like a really good diverse selection of stories, and all of the stories are connected because all of the stories are citizens who live in Autumn Crow. So I gave this a 5-star. This is my only other 5-star that I gave this year. The other short story collection I read was an ebook, but it was Wormwood by Poppy Z. Bright. I didn't love every single story that was in there, but I did love a small handful of them, and they were just really great. Poppy Z. Bright's writing is just, it's like so raw. It's like kind of dirty but beautiful and poetic and sleazy. It's really, really good. It's a type of writing style that I do like, but I haven't really ran into. It has this sort of quality to it. It's really hard to put my finger on it, but it was just really, really cool. It's like really punk rock. All right, so the last books I'm gonna talk about are the young adult books that I read this year that I really enjoyed. Darcy Coates. I was turned on to Darcy Coates this year by Stacie Stories. I did read another book of Darcy's, but I really enjoyed this one the most. It's well written, it's interesting, it's fun, you go on an adventure, and it has its creepy moments as well. And I would definitely call this one the creepy cozy genre also, but it's awesome. I really, really enjoyed this. The Corset by Laura Purcell. Really enjoyed this. Really just interesting, unique story. Another book where you have perspectives in different chapters. So there's 2 main characters. You see one and you see another, and how they're perceiving each other at certain times, but mostly like what their lives are like separate. But they are connected by something. They're written really, really well. And what I really enjoyed was one of the main characters. She really believes in phrenology, which is a pseudoscience. It's a science that measures your skull to determine if you're going to be delinquent or not. If your skull is measuring in sizes that are most common in minorities, then most likely you will be a deviant or some type of a criminal in society, which is total bullshit. But she believes in that wholeheartedly. And what's interesting is that at the time, of course, during this period, which is, I think it's the 1800s, 1850s, you know, women being interested in science is just not a popular thing. It's not something that's supported by anyone. And she's really trying to find her own way. She's really trying to be a scientist. So that is extremely interesting. And the other character ends up being a patient where she kind of wants to use phrenology to determine certain truths about this person. It was very interesting. The next one was Perfectly Preventable Deaths. I picked up this book based on the cover alone. I don't know, something about crows and skulls and gold leafing. Yeah, I just like it. I was so surprised. It was really a gothic tale kind of hidden in a YA fantasy. And it was really cool and really interesting, and actually really creepy and pretty gross in some parts. There are scenes in here that are disturbing. This was one of those YA books that when I was reading it, I didn't think that it was a YA book. And I loved that. So the next book is A Taste for Monsters. And I've mentioned this book pretty often, but it is just something that I just really, really love. I love the characters. It's like 2 people who are outcasts of society, kind of finding a friendship together and solving a supernatural mystery. This is definitely a ghost story, and it has characters from the real world like Jack the Ripper and Joseph Merrick the Elephant Man. I love this because the relationship between the 2 main characters is really beautiful and just stuck with me. The other book that I really, really enjoyed, I don't have with me because I gifted it to one of my friends. It's My Best Friend's Exorcism. This is a book that so many people were telling me that they just loved and enjoyed so much, and it was awesome. Like, it was just so cool. I didn't really know what to expect from my best friend's exorcism. I was just hoping that it wasn't going to be too YA and it was going to still be creepy and scary, and it really, really was. And it was written so well. These characters you get really invested in them, and what's happening is just really, really interesting. Last but not least, this is one of my early reads this year. It was the Diviners by Libba Bray. And this is a series. I haven't read the next books yet, but this was really, really fun. This is based in the 1920s, so you have all the vernacular from that time period, and it's in New York City, and it's supernatural. There is some really creepy things going on, and the characters in this book, they do have some kind of sensitivity towards these things, so they are all coming together to figure it out. It's really good. There's also a lot of diversity in this book, which is nice. So those were my top books of the year, just books that have stuck with me, that I still feel so good about when I look at them and just get pulled back into their stories when I revisit them. So yeah, it's gonna be 2020. I hope you guys are ready for the future. I'm hoping VR gets better and I don't get sick every time I play it, because if you guys have never played a haunted house in VR, you are missing out. Especially if you're like me and you're like, I'm not afraid of anything. Nothing scares me. I was terrified, and I think the best one I played was the Paranormal Ghost Dimension one, which sounds so dumb, but I couldn't even walk through the front door to start the game. It was so scary. So I'm hoping VR really just goes wild in 2020. That's my wish, I guess, for technology. If you like these videos, please support me by subscribing and following me on Instagram. You can message me anytime, send me some recommendations. I am totally into that and would love it. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I will see you next year, and I will talk to you next time.